Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to be doing a full day review and wear test of the new LYS Triple Fix Serum Skin Tint Stick. So I just got this. I am so excited. I believe this retails for $26 US or 30 for Canadian. So definitely a much more fair price point for a Sephora product. So it looks like on Sephora there are actually 22 shades, and this is described as an ingredient-rich skin tint stick that enhances complexion to help visibly even skin while concealing the look of any blemishes or uneven skin tone with just one swipe. This is supposed to be medium coverage with a natural finish. It does contain green tea extract, watermelon seed extract, and rose hip oil. So this is also supposed to be an all-in-one serum, primer, and skin tint. So I'm really excited to try this one out. I did get the shade LP4, and this is what it looks like. This is the inner packaging, so definitely very similar to their blush sticks, their bronzer sticks, and also I noticed that the plastic packaging is actually supposed to imitate the color of the inner packaging. So I thought that was quite interesting as well. I really did like that. So let me zoom you in, pin the hair back, and then we can get into applying this foundation. I did wear this yesterday, so I do already have some preliminary thoughts, but let's just get into it. All right, so let's get to trying this on. So like I said, this is what the stick looks like, and it does just look like this. Like I said, I got the shade LP4, and I did wear this yesterday, and I will tell you right now, the shade is too deep, which is really frustrating because the shade LP4 is described as being for fair skin with pink undertones. And I thought, yeah, that's got to be about right. But I do find the LYS shade matching on Sephora to be very, very confusing. So the shade is off, but I still want to try to wear test this. I did just prep my skin with the Refer Intense Hydration Cream. So I think on one side I'm going to apply directly with the stick, and then on the other side I'm just going to take it off the stick with the brush, and then I can kind of show you the difference in application. I do also have the new LYS powder, so I will show you how that looks under the eyes as well. Yeah, so you can see it's a little bit too deep. I don't think it looks as bad on camera, but this is one that it is a bit too deep, but it will be okay. Like, I can definitely make it work. I will also let you know how this compares to some of my other stick foundations. If you're new to my channel, I have been on a mission for years to find a good stick foundation for dry skin. I do have quite dry skin, and it's kind of on good behavior at the moment because we are in the summer months, but I love the convenience of a stick. So I've been looking for the perfect stick foundation for quite some time, and they're really, really hard to find. They're often just either too heavy or too drying on my skin. So I have found a few that do work very well for my skin, but I do kind of want to let you know how this compares. Okay, so just taking that off the stick with the brush. So you can see it does look quite nice, definitely evened out my skin, but I don't feel like I got as much coverage as I would have potentially liked. I do think taking it off the stick with a brush gives me the most amount of coverage, and I do think it ends up looking the best that way. And when I wore this yesterday, it did wear quite well. It stayed in place all day long. It looked quite nice by the end of the day, so I was happy with that. It also doesn't feel heavy. It does feel a little bit like I have a heavier moisturizer on, so it's not quite as lightweight as some other foundations, like the Patrick Ta that I tried recently. That one I really can't feel on my skin. This one I can feel, but it just feels very hydrating. And you can probably see that this definitely has a glow to it, and it's a little bit too glowy. I have definitely been gravitating away from these more super glowy foundations. I do have dry skin, but I do still prefer a more natural finish or more satin. I just don't love these super, super glowy finishes. So for me, this is definitely one that needs to be powdered. And just like a little bit extra coverage over here. I am just using my BK Beauty 101. This is my favorite brush for foundation. I do love how it looks on the skin overall. I don't think it's blurring at all, but I do think it looks really nice. It definitely looks quite healthy, and it does actually look quite skin-like. It looks very much like I just have a heavy moisturizer on, and I do appreciate that. It did blend out very easily and very seamlessly, and I feel like I didn't have to do a lot of work And I love the way that I was able to very easily build up the coverage. So I'm really liking that so far. So for concealer, I'm going to go in with the new MAC concealer. This is the Studio Radiance 24-Hour Luminous Lift Concealer. I have been absolutely loving this one. So far, I really do like this LYS foundation stick. Aside from being a little bit too glowy and a little bit heavier than I like, so far this is feeling really, really great for my dry skin. And this could easily be a contender for one of the best ones. But I am getting quite a collection of stick foundations to compare this to. I love this MAC concealer so much as well. It's like a really beautiful medium coverage, but also super, super hydrating. Okay, so that's what we're looking like so far. So definitely a little bit too glowy. We're gonna fix that right now. So I am going in with the new LYS Loose Setting Powder. I have the shade Pink. I think they have 2 shades of this. So you can see it's a very pink powder. I am going to tap out a little bit into the cap. So as most of us already know, the Givenchy powder that I love with my entire heart has been reformulated, and apparently they didn't do a good job because apparently it is now shiny. And that's not really what anybody wants in a setting powder. That's what I want in a highlighter, but not a setting powder. So I am really upset about that. Okay, that is really pink. Can you see? I have it looks like I have blush on my nose. That's a shame because under my eyes it looks really, really nice, but up here, not so much. Okay, so I was able to fix my nose somewhat, but when I try to bring it down here, again, it's just looking like blush. I'm gonna switch for the other eye, and I'm gonna go in with the Huda Beauty Easy Bake powder in the shade Cherry Blossom Cake. So this is one that I actually picked up while I was on vacation with a view to, again, try to replace that Givenchy powder. So like I said, I do have very dry skin, so for me, finding the right powder can be quite challenging. Most powders end up clinging to dry patches or looking too heavy on my skin, so it really is a bit of an effort to find the right one. Okay, I'm going in with that Huda Beauty powder now. Okay, that's much better. Okay, that is much, much better. Yeah, see, I feel like that is brightening without making me pink. I know the pink powder is supposed to be brightening, but I don't think it's actually supposed to look like a blush. So I have heard that the Huda is a good alternative for the Givenchy. Huda was on top, but the Givenchy was supposed to be better for dry skin. So I am testing out a mini of the Huda right now to kind of figure out if it's as good. I'm going to tell you the LYS looks absolutely fabulous, but the pink shade will look like blush if you're too fair. And I do have the Makeup by Mario on its way to me as well, so I will be testing that out, and I'm probably going to end up doing some sort of powder showdown to see if I can figure out which one is the best replacement for the Givenchy. For the longest time, I was a pressed powder girl, and then that's the one that converted me to loose powders for the most part, and I am quite upset. And I'm quite upset that I have to shift when I just found the perfect one. Okay, so here's what we're looking like. I feel like the powder did sort of make the foundation shade work a little better for me, so that makes me happy. Where I put the LYS powder, where it's not showing up pink, it does look really, really nice. It is a very finely milled powder, and it is sitting very, very lightly on the skin. It looks really, really nice. It's really not taking out much of the glow, but it does a little. The Huda definitely takes down that glow, but doesn't show up pink, even though the shade actually is just as pink as the LYS. I'm going to say that LYS powder, I will definitely have to be a lot more conservative in my use, a lot more targeted just to the under eyes and not kind of get it anywhere else because I don't want blush everywhere else. All right, let me pop off camera, finish up the rest of my makeup, and I will come back to do a comparison with some of the other stick foundations in my collection and get the wear test started. All right, so the rest of the makeup is on, and I feel like it actually is looking pretty good. Even though the shade was definitely a little bit deeper than I would like, I feel like I've managed to make it work, and it's really not that obvious that it's too deep. So I'm really happy about that. let me zoom you out and then we can talk about some comparisons. Okay, so I do have some swatches here of the different stick foundations in my collection. So right here is the new one from LYS. So you can see that the shade is definitely deeper and a little bit more pink than some of the others. I do still think it looks a little bit more golden on my skin. I'm not sure why. Then we have the Charlotte Tilbury stick foundation that I don't like because it is way too glowy. Then I have shade 2 in the Fenty stick foundation, and I just recently picked up shade 2 and I love it. This is almost a perfect match for me. Under that, I have the Huda Beauty, which actually seems to have a bit of a pink undertone to it as well. But then we have the Dior stick foundation that I tried recently. This shade is absolutely perfect for me. And then on the very bottom, I have the Minimalist from Merit. I wanted to start with the Huda because I don't like this one at all. This one is just too thick and heavy for my dry skin, and it does cling to dry patches, and it's way too heavy on my skin and way too dry. So you can see I do have a dip out of this one. It's because I use it to clean up my eyebrows. So that's really the only purpose of this one. This one has the most coverage of all of them, but I just don't like it because it does not work with my skin type. The Merit Minimalist, this one I like quite a bit, but this is one that you're going to wear for a very light makeup day. This is not going to give you a lot of coverage. This is going to definitely be a lighter coverage. It's going to even out the skin. You can use it as a foundation and a concealer, but I do like it. It doesn't cling to dry patches and it doesn't dry me out. I just prefer something that is a little bit more medium coverage. Then I have this Charlotte Tilbury, which I do have a full dedicated review on, and I don't like this at all because it is so incredibly glowy. This is essentially like the Hollywood Flawless filter in a stick. So it definitely works great for my dry skin. It doesn't cling to dry patches, but it does enhance pores like crazy, and it is so incredibly glowy. This also gives a much lighter coverage. So this is one that I might put on, but I'm going to throw a powder foundation on over top. Most recently, I tried out the Dior Forever Skin Perfect Face Stick in the shade 0N. So this one I do like. This one has a fragrance to it, but it's a very clean, fresh fragrance. It actually does smell really, really good to me. This one I like. This one gives a more medium coverage. It's more of a light medium, if anything. But I do really like the coverage this gives. This is very hydrating. This never clings to dry patches. I don't think this one is necessarily blurring, but it does look really beautiful on the skin. But I have officially decided that I do not like this as much as my Fenty, because I do find that this one is less transfer proof than the Fenty. This is one that if you don't powder it down and you touch your skin, you can easily move the foundation, which is just something that bothers me personally. I do like this. I do think it's beautiful. It feels so nice on the skin. It gives a really beautiful light medium coverage, so it never looks too heavy. It doesn't feel like there's anything on the skin. The one thing I mentioned when I was reviewing this one was that throughout the day that I was doing my wear test, I kept forgetting that I was wearing this, so that definitely speaks to how lightweight the stick is. I really, really do like this one. I think it's beautiful. Light medium coverage, very comfortable, but will move around if you're not careful. Which leads us to the Fenty, which is my absolute favorite stick foundation that I have found for my skin type. This is just a really beautiful, hydrating stick foundation that is not too glowy, and it does not cling to dry patches. It doesn't do anything strange. It doesn't transfer off easily. It doesn't move around. And it does give a solid medium coverage. I can get a really great coverage level out of this, and I really do love this. It also wears all day long. At first, I had the shade 1. I still have shade 1 because according to their chart on Sephora, that was my shade. But it was definitely way too light. So once I grabbed this one, I was going to mix the two, but this shade on its own actually is perfect for me. So this definitely skyrocketed to number 1 as my favorite stick foundation. So the LYS is most closely in competition with the Fenty. They are reminding me quite a lot of each other in texture. They're both very creamy, both very blendable. They both blend very, very quickly. They both give a very similar coverage level. I'm definitely getting a really nice medium coverage out of the LYS. One thing that does set them apart, I find, is that the LYS is definitely glowier. The formulas are reminding me quite a bit of each other. So that is definitely a good sign for the LYS because of how much I enjoy the Fenty. So I do think this is beautiful so far. I really, really like it. I like it even more today than I did yesterday. I love the coverage level. It's playing really, really well with the Huda Beauty powder. I do not like this now that I know just how pink it is. I think in the future using the LYS powder, I'm going to have to keep it very concentrated on a much smaller puff right in the eye area or maybe on a brush, but this is one that I'm going to have to be very careful not to put on other areas of my face because I really don't like the look of looking like I have blush under my eyes. That's just not something that I personally am going for. But the Huda pink powder I think looks really pretty and really brightening while not looking like a blush. So I do appreciate that. So I'm going to go about the rest of my day and I will come back tonight to let you know my final thoughts. It is currently about 1 p.m. so definitely later than I would like to film one of these, but I'm going to try to wear this until about 9, so we'll get at least a good 8 hours. I will say I did wear this for the full day yesterday and it still looked great when I took my makeup off at the very end of the day. But that is it for right now. I will see you guys in a little bit. All right, so it's another really awful day for weather, so I'm standing on my futon trying to show you what this looks like in natural lighting, and I think it actually does look pretty nice. I think the natural lighting makes it a little bit more obvious. The shade doesn't necessarily work for me, but I do think it's nice. It does give a really pretty luminosity to the skin. All right, so it is currently 9 p.m. so we have made a good 8 hours and I'm actually still really liking how the foundation looks. Right around here doesn't look so great, but I think that was a bit of a mishap with some powder. Otherwise, everything else still looks actually really quite good. I feel like I've still got a lot of the coverage. I feel like it hasn't even started wearing off yet. And overall, everything just still looks really, really nice. And it is very comfortable. Like I said, when I first put it on, it kind of felt like I had a bit of a heavier moisturizer. But as it sort of settled down, it feels incredibly lightweight. And it's definitely hydrating, definitely not clinging to any dry patches. It's just an overall very, very comfortable, lightweight formula that gives me a really nice coverage. So I actually do really, really like this. I'm a little sad that the shade is a bit too deep, but I might wait for a Sephora sale and order a shade lighter and mix the two because I really actually do enjoy this foundation. I think it's really, really great. And I'm not 100% sure that it will overtake my Fenty, but I do think that it will overtake the Dior. So this is actually a really, really nice product. I really do like it. As for the powder, it is way too pink for my preferences, but I will try it again in some different ways and see if I can make it work. Otherwise, the foundation is an absolute hit. I really do like it. I wasn't sure at first, but I think I really do like it. And I think the only thing really throwing me off at this point is the shade. So I do want to grab a lighter shade. I will let you know at the end of the month my final thoughts, but so far so good. I think this is fantastic. That is it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!